Tom Brady. Love to hear your thoughts on his first game.
I didn't see it. So we were on at the exact same time. We were in the same window. Tony and I broadcast the Chargers-Raiders game.
Yes, you
And
did.
he was up against, yes, we can talk about that. He was in the same window for Fox with Cleveland and Dallas. I would have liked to have heard it, but I'm going to look forward to hearing him down the road. I'll hear him this week, in fact, because I've got the late game. He's going to be up early. I've talked to Tom a lot leading into this season, and he has called on many broadcasters to get their insights into what it's like in the booth, how to prepare, how fast the game moves. So I know he's going to be really good at this. I don't have any doubt, and I'm certainly not going to make any judgments without having seen him. And even if I did see him, which I didn't, I wouldn't draw any conclusions after one game. Tom Brady will be very good at this.
You know what? Amen to that, Jim. Amen to not judging people at their first moment on the job. I can tell you this, if I were evaluated after my first week or so with the Raiders, I'd have been canned after my first week or so with the Raiders. You got to grow into some things and learn some things. Now, look, if you're a fighter pilot and you're flying an F-16, yeah, you got to get it right the first time you do it. There's no room for error. Or if you're an open heart surgeon and you're doing your first open heart surgery. But for pretty much all other business, you can have a little bit of latitude and room to grow. And again, if I were judged after my first week on the job, I'd have been gone.
This weekend, in our production meeting on Saturday night, the young producers put together a little highlight tape with all of our graphics and all of that, but they opened it with a flashback, and it was actually a flashback of my broadcasting debut for CBS, which was 39 years ago this weekend. So I began my 40th year at one network, which I'm really proud of, being at one place. I always grew up not being a big free agent fan in sports. I understand why it's there. I always loved the player, the athlete that was with one team his whole career, because he was there for me the next year and the next year and the next year. And I felt a connection there. So anyway, they put up on the tape before our whole team my broadcasting debut. The reason they did it was because my first game, I was hosting the broadcast of a Michigan Notre Dame game, September the 14th, 1985. And the winning quarterback in the first game, the first broadcast I ever had at CBS, was Jim Harbaugh.
You are kidding.
Harbaugh was the winning quarterback that day, and I was making my network television debut in the studio. Now, for the record, if there was social media back then, and anybody was wanting to evaluate my work, this is back to your point, Amy, I couldn't wait for that clip to come down, for it to stop, because it was cringeworthy to me. The nervousness that was written all over my face, the unevenness of my delivery. I truly looked all of 26 years old, which is what I was at the time. And the moment really was, let's face it, it was probably too big for me. And, I got through it. I know I got better. I got better the second week, the third year, the fourth year. That's what happens. But these days, people expect you to come out in any realm, and everybody's got a hot take, and they've got something snarky they want to say about it. I didn't have to live with that at that time. I still had the pressure of having to perform. Trust me, I still had a lot of people I had to make happy. But when I saw that clip back, and I had not looked back at it before, I could not believe what it looked like. And it was not pretty.
Have you ever made a mistake during a game or a broadcast that you just were paralyzed? Or at least that you I'm so curious to hear about it.
Yeah, I think it can be something really small that I amplify, magnify in my own head, because I try to be as perfect as I can. I say this in one breath. I do cut myself some slack in another way, but when it comes to having a fact wrong, that really eats at me, because I feel like my memory is razor sharp, and all week long I have consumed so much information and data. I've stored most of it and compartmentalized most of it in my head, and it's just I can't accept sloppiness. But we're all human. Let's face it.
Jim,
a lot of broadcasters, though, they beat themselves up over the wrong thing. And in their attempt to be perfect, they think being perfect is the way that they deliver whatever it is they're trying to say. They don't give themselves enough room to be able to correct themselves or stumble over a word. In normal conversation speak, people do trip over words, and you don't even think about it as the one that's receiving the words. But when you get on the air, and I see young broadcasters, new broadcasters, they get really hung up on making sure they never stumble, because then people are going to know, oh my gosh, that I'm nervous, or whatever it is that they're thinking in their head. This is not about Brady. I'm just talking about anybody. And my words to kids when I speak at college and everything, quit worrying about being letter perfect in the delivery. You wouldn't be in this if you didn't have the ability to deliver what you want to say, to communicate. I would rather stumble. This is what my approach on in terms of how I try to let it flow. I would rather be unscripted. I hate to be scripted. Unscripted and choppy, and maybe stumble over a few words and be totally relatable, as opposed to being scripted, wooden, and unrelatable. That's not a winning presentation, is to be letter perfect. You're better if you sound conversational and natural.
Check out new episodes of What the Football with Suzy Shuster and Amy Trask every Tuesday. Watch us on the Rich Eisen Show YouTube page, or follow and listen wherever you get your podcasts.